New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Live from a secure concrete bunker somewhere in Ohio, New Thought Media Network presents Pastor Michael Mangus with Friday's Fireside Chat, spiritual conversation for today. Here he is from the secret radio room, surrounded by thousands of watts, Pastor Michael Mangus.
All right. Well, good evening to everyone here across the United States and also around the world. It is time once again for another fun-filled, thrill-packed, and guaranteed, always exciting edition of the Fireside Chat here on the New Thought Media Network. I am Pastor Michael Mangus, and I am broadcasting this evening from the super secret radio room that is surrounded by thousands of watts in the secure concrete bunker somewhere around Akron, Ohio, that is so top secret that only one person, and that is my producer, Diego Reyes, only he knows where the top secret concrete bunker is located. Everyone else, including our chief inspirational officer, the Reverend Robert Brzezinski, he has no clue where the super secret concrete bunker is located. And we are going to keep it that way. Well, hi there. Welcome. It's been a while here. We want you to interact with us this evening. Now, we are recording this and we're going to put this up tonight. But again, please feel free to interact on Facebook. And so for all my shy people out there, I know you're out there. Go to pastormichaelmangus@gmail.com, pastormichaelmangus@gmail.com. Send me an email. Let me know that you're watching our show and that you're enjoying our show. So the purpose of our fireside chat here is to talk about contemporary issues from a New Thought perspective. And as I keep telling you week after week, over and over again, I want us all to have a new thought about what is going on in the world and our part in it. So we talk about oneness at our centers. So can we recognize and realize that whatever that we're seeing out there, that we, because we are one, that we have some part in it. So what I'm encouraging everyone to do here is to go ahead and not only changing your consciousness, but also, again, getting active and knowing that you are not a victim here. That, again, that the world that you see, you need to start seeing it the way that you want to, which is, again, it was peaceful, calm, and serene. A world that does work for everyone. So we are so honored this evening to have with us in our green room, my friend, New Thought scholar and author, the Reverend Dr. April Moncrief, who will be speaking to us tonight on prayer. Our topic here tonight was somewhat inspired by yours truly visiting Unity Village a couple of weeks ago, of which Dr. Moncrief is very familiar with. So we're going to talk about prayer from a New Thought perspective. So Dr. April Moncrief will be our guest in the second half of the program. So it's been a whirlwind couple of weeks here. Diego and I were at Unity Village here to cover celebrating our Soul Convention, while Reverend Robert and Laura were in Geneva, Switzerland. Isn't that nice? participating in their summer convention. And both events were wonderful. And I want to thank you, our viewers, because it's because of your loving financial support that we're able to go to conferences like that. And also, it's wedding season here in the Midwest. So I just returned back from Pennsylvania performing a ceremony for Lexi and Dylan. Congratulations to you too. So that's the reason I have not been live with you, but tonight we are recording because I wanted Dr. Moncrieff to be with us tonight to talk about a very important subject, and that is prayer. Let's go into the news here briefly. Today, the Justice Department released a redacted version of the Mar-a-Lago search warrant affidavit. If you recall, a few weeks ago that the FBI raided the Mar-a-Lago compound of the former president, Donald Trump. The warrant authorized the FBI to search Trump's home and a private club earlier this month and remove boxes of documents, prompting a flurry of criticism from the former president. This comes after the Justice Department prosecutors emphasized that they needed continued secrecy in order not to disrupt the ongoing criminal investigation. From the Ukraine, Ukraine's nuclear power plant, which is occupied by Russian forces, was disconnected from the country's power grid for the first time on Thursday. Increased shelling on the plant has recently triggered calls for international experts to visit the facility and ratcheted up fears of a potential nuclear accident. So our prayers are still with our practitioners and our CSL members in the Ukraine. Several of them were at the Geneva, Switzerland retreat a few weeks ago. And our prayers for peace continue, not only for Ukraine, but also for the other war-torn areas of the Mideast and also Africa. In our climate news, record rainfalls and flash floods in Mississippi have stranded residents, washed away roads, and derailed a train this week. The city of Jackson, Mississippi, picked up more than 5 inches of rain on Wednesday, setting a record as the wettest August day that the city has ever experienced. Can you say climate change? Can you say that the reason that there is a moral and spiritual issue is because it affects so many people and our Mother Earth? So that brings us to our next story. California air regulators voted on Thursday to ban new gas car sales by 2035. The measure here is to phase gas cars out of the state. It is a historic one and also would be the first such ban worldwide. So we must take steps to ensure the future of our planet for the next generation. And the challenges that we have today in the weather, the scientists say, is partly to blame by continuing to put carbon emissions into the atmosphere. And if you're going to have electric cars, the electricity must be generated through solar, wind, and hydro. Why is that? Well, if you go ahead and keep generating electricity through coal burning plants, well, you're defeating the purpose, aren't you? So where are the plant-based fuels? I had a friend of mine who was in a PhD program who was working on a plant-based fuel. Whatever happened to that? When corporations and greed interfere with what would be best for the overall planet, then we need to not only pray, but we also need to pressure for change. $24 billion. Huh? That is how much President Biden's student loan forgiveness plan could cost per year. And the White House press secretary said to CNN on Thursday, asked why the president waited so long to make his decision to cancel the debt. She said Biden wanted to do it in a fiscally balanced way. However, there remains no public estimate on the total price tag for the program. So this is another social issue that we need to address in this country. So what hurts individuals who take out student loans is the high rate of interest on them. So how about principal-only loans? Or better yet, how about low or no cost higher education like in other countries? And so the argument has been on some of the media outlets, well, how dare you forgive others their loans when I have paid off mine? So for my bachelor's degree a few years back, I had to take out a student loan of which I did pay off. I have no problems whatsoever with those individuals who have had some or all of their student loan debt paid off. So I thought that part of our Judeo-Christian ethic is forgiveness. So from the Jewish tradition, isn't all debt forgiven every 7 years? And the U.S. government forgave billions of dollars in aid to corporations. Now, some are going to say, well, Pastor Mangus, with all due respect, why do you comment on political issues? So my first response is, who made them political? And I was thinking about this the other day. When my politics is more important than my spirituality, whom am I worshiping? That's something to think about here. And truly, I comment on moral, ethical, and spiritual issues that affect us all. And my not speaking out, what that does is that does not cause discussion to change that race consciousness, causing all of the issues. Yes, our work is done in consciousness, but what changes society is both praying and moving our feet. And I give some examples here. How about the civil rights movement? How about the women's movement and the right to vote? Another example is the LGBTQIA plus brothers and sisters. So when individuals start to speak out and speak up, not only doing your prayer work, but also, again, defending those individuals, then what happens is societal change begins to happen. So lastly, here, we may go to our break early here. I saw this article in several news sites, and I just wanted to briefly comment about this. Pastor arrested for watering neighbor's flowers. Okay, I don't make this stuff up, okay? Reverend Michael Jennings was watering flowers for his out-of-town neighbor in May when an officer approached him. Within minutes, he was arrested, handcuffed, and in the back of a police cruiser. Video released by his lawyer this week shows. I am supposed to be here. I'm Pastor Jennings. I live across the street. He told the officers during the May 22nd exchange in his neighbor's driveway in Childersburg, Alabama. And I'm looking out for their house while they're gone watering the flowers. So I'm just going to summarize the rest of the story. So what happened is that the officer went ahead and asked Pastor Jennings for his ID. Now, Alabama state law says that if they believe that you are doing a criminal act, then they can ask you for your ID. But again, Pastor Jennings was just watering the flowers. So what happened was that, unfortunately, the conversation became heated and that Pastor Jennings ended up being arrested. The charges were later dropped. Now, his wife showed the officers the ID later, but again, that's the officers wanted to go ahead and press charges. The charges were dropped about a month later. But what has happened here is that Pastor Jennings has now, he has now retained an attorney and is looking into maybe having a civil rights lawsuit about the incident. So now, if I was watering a neighbor's flowers and their garden after Sunday service, my question here is, would the police be called on me? Now, personally, even though that I don't have to show my ID unless I'm suspect of criminal activity, personally, when requested by the police, I do so. And I am of a white skin tone and not as likely to get shot or injured during a police stop like my African American brothers and sisters are. So my friend, the late Dr. Charlotte Manning, told me that she would never call the police to interfere or intervene with any dispute with family members. The reason being is because of the darker skin tone of her relatives. So I continue to urge and support police reform across the country. And again, this is not defund the police, this is police reform. And it wasn't that long ago when Jalen Walker here in Akron was gunned down with 46 shots for a broken tail light. So the pressure continues here in Akron with a week of peaceful events, working to get a ballot referendum for a civilian police oversight committee. 18 minutes and 59 seconds, 19 minutes. Diego would be proud of me. Well, hi there. You're watching the Friday Evening Fireside Chat here on your New Thought Media Network. It's Pastor Michael Mangus with you. What we're going to do now here is we're going to do a few announcements, and then we are going to have on a friend of mine, New Thought scholar and author, Dr. April Moncrief, will be with us tonight, and she will be sharing with us, hopefully, if I get the right banner up, she'll be sharing with us about how we do prayer in New Thought. It's a little different than maybe what we were taught in our Christian traditions. Dr. Moncrief is, I hope she comes back in because I don't see her. Okay, I hope she comes back in. Okay. Because I didn't do anything else here. Okay. So anyhow, what is going on here in our wonderful New Thought Media Network? Let me just click off of that. Oh, come on. Okay. We're just going to go here. And we're going to click off there. Well, anyhow, yours truly is currently parking himself at Summit CSL. For more information, this is where you go to. You go to summitcsl.org. There and only there, you will find information about our wonderful Sunday service, which is at 10:30 Eastern Time, 7:30 Pacific Time. Please join us. And this Sunday, I was informed by the spiritual director of our wonderful community, Diana Mangus, that it will be Surprise Sunday. And I said, why is it Surprise Sunday? And she said, the reason it's Surprise Sunday is because I don't know what we're going to do yet. Join us. It'll be a lot of fun. So that's this Sunday. If you want information about how to join us on Zoom, please go to summitcsl.org. We have so much stuff happening here at the New Thought Media Network. Let me just say hi again to Dr. April. Hello, Dr. April. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Glad to be with you.
Well, I'm going to have you on in just a second here. So
sounds good.
I'm
ready.
Back on. Okay. All right. We have so much stuff happening here at our network that it's really, if I started to go through all of our schedule here, we would be here past midnight. I'm not going to do that because Dr. Moncrieff has told me that we have a half an hour with her. Okay. So, but what I want you to do is I want you to check out all the wonderful things that we have at our network here by going on to ntmedia.org. There you will find a complete schedule. And also, if you could, click on the donate button there. Like I told you before, that we are going to many of the New Thought conferences and festivals around the country and also around the world. And we're able to give support to the organizations through recording their video. Also, we're able to create an event where they can sell tickets, all kinds of wonderful things. However, we give that service at a deep discount. And the reason being is because that you help us. So we're asking again for your donation, please. Again, either give a very generous one-time gift, or you can do like I do and give on a monthly basis. When you are a sustaining donor here, what happens is that off of that money is that we're able then to have budgets. We're able to pay the bills. We know that the money is coming in. So help us out, please. Again, it's wonderful watching and talking with people around the world who are affected in a positive way because of what we do here on New Thought Media Network. So go to ntmedia.org/donate. And we thank you so very much. Okay. We're going to go to a break. And then when we come back, we'll have on my friend, a scholar and author, the Reverend Dr. April Moncrief. This is the Friday evening fireside chat here on your New Thought Media Network.
New Thought has a money problem. You know, it's okay to talk about prosperity. It's okay to talk about abundance. It's okay to talk about overflow, but often talking about money feels taboo, or it feels verboten, like do not talk about that. And I've experienced this in our New Thought communities and our centers and with our New Thought friends. And so here's my thinking: who better to have money and to have mastered a money mindset than those of us who are working to build a more equitable world using New Thought spirituality, New Thought technology, and all of the wonderful things that we know work. I am Reverend April Moncrief, and I invite you to join me for a 5-week online workshop entitled Manifest More Money. This work is intended to use spiritual practices and practical actions to help you bust through your money set point, to help you release any kind of money shame or guilt or limits or limited thinking and boxes you put yourself in, and to really move into right relationship, divine right relationship with money. Indeed, our divine birthright is to have unlimited abundance, and that includes money. So I invite you to join me. We're going to kick everything off on Thursday, September 1st. All of the information is right here in the post below. The link for you to register is right here for you. And here's the really great thing. If you register using the link here at New Thought Media Network, they will receive 50% of your registration fee. It goes directly to New Thought Media Network. So I invite you to join me. Let's take this walk together. Let's blow the hinges off of our money consciousness and our money limits. And let's really get aligned with that divine source of energy that we use on this plane to exchange goods and services and to create a better world. I invite you to join me. I look forward to it.
Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, for your continued support. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, for your monthly contribution. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, for your monthly contribution. And please help us welcome Om Center for Spiritual Living in La Mesa, California. Thank you for your monthly donation. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, for your most generous donation. And a special thanks to Hefferlin Foundation for your generous technology grant. And Suze Ajit, thank you for your very generous donation. And a super special thank you to Dr. Tracy Brown, RSCP. Thanks for being a super donor. And a big shout out to all our committed donors.
The views and opinions expressed by Pastor Michael Mangus are generally right. However, they are his own and do not reflect the views and opinions of New Thought Media Network, Centers for Spiritual Living, or any other person living or dead. As they say in the 12-Step Recovery Program, take what you like and leave the rest. Here again is Pastor Michael.
And we are so privileged to have on this evening an author, a scholar, someone who has written several books, including The Principles of New Thought. And we're having her on this evening to talk about how we do prayer. And that is the Reverend Dr. April Moncrief. Her bio is very long, but I will just mention a few points. She is has her master's and doctorate degree through Emerson Theological Seminary, and also that she was a member of the faculty there. She's written several books. Again, when you go on to Amazon, I'm going to have Dr. Moncrief come up here. When it's Moncreff.
Right.
That is how you get to Dr. Moncrief's book page. Again, if you do not have a copy of Principles of New Thought, please go buy it. You can buy it on Kindle, or you can also purchase a paperback copy. Again, it is my privilege to have on this evening the Reverend Dr. April Moncrief. Good evening. Welcome.
Good evening, Pastor Michael. So glad to be back on the show.
Oh, well, it's always a pleasure to have you on. So as I told you, I went to Unity Village a few weeks ago, and you can just, for me, I can just tell, just being on the grounds, that a lot of prayer is done not only on that grounds, but a lot of prayer has been put into the soil. Some people said that they feel that it was that they were walking on sacred holy ground.
Absolutely.
So define for us prayer, and how is prayer maybe a little different, how we do it in New Thought from our Christian brothers and sisters?
That's a great question, because that's what I was hoping I could open with. I wanted to suggest some of the more traditional ways of prayer, and then contrast how we look at prayer and approach it in New Thought, which I think is far more enlightened. In traditional forms of prayer, certainly in the Christian church, God is often thought of as a remote being up in the celestial spheres, essentially external to us. And to reach God and to commune with God, we often have to go through elaborate, formalized rituals or rote prayers, or we may resort to begging, beseeching, bargaining with God, propitiation and sacrifice, basically trying to appease a God who is often thought of as somewhat capricious and angry and disapproving quite a bit of the time. So we've kind of set that old view of prayer aside, recognizing that rather than thinking of God as external and separate and far from us and often difficult to reach, we go with the thought that we live and move and have our being in this magnificent presence that we call God. And that being in touch with God is simply a matter of attuning ourselves in thought, in an attitude of quietness and receptivity, to experience a greater measure of our sense of oneness with God. It's a much closer feeling with God, a true communion, the ultimate goal of which is really to consciously become aware of our oneness with God, to bridge that gap between our sense of a separate selfhood and the sense that we truly are one with God. As Jesus said, I and my Father are one. And we know that whatever Jesus claimed for himself, he also claimed for all of us. So that's how I think of God. And that's why I love being in the New Thought movements and feeling that sense of oneness increasing over time as we cultivate that sense of the listening ear, is what Joel Goldsmith calls it. That it's that attitude of open-heartedness and receptivity that quickens our awareness of God. In fact, Eckhart Tolle said that stillness is the language that God speaks, and everything else is a poor translation, a bad translation. So that's what our goal should be, becoming still all through the Old Testament. We have Jeremiah telling us that God is not found in the whirlwind nor in the fire, but in the small, still voice. The prophet Samuel said, "Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth." David in the Psalms says, "Be still and know that I am God." So the stillness is the prerequisite. And then out of that stillness comes all that we need to know and act upon in our daily lives. So
Yes. And also Jesus said, he says, don't they say in your scriptures that ye are gods? And again, some Christian translators have tried to dumb that down and say, didn't your scriptures say that you are
all gods and
yes,
all sons of the Most High?
All sons and daughters of the Most High.
That's it.
So what I'm hearing you say is that, again, from the Christian viewpoint, again, we're praying to a far off God, but in what you're talking about in New Thought is you're talking about having a relationship with this omnipresent, which means everywhere present God, that from that we we have it all from that relationship, correct?
That's it. Yes,
And
absolutely.
yeah,
But
and
we
so
have to attune ourselves to that. We have to open ourselves to that awareness that all that the Father has truly does belong to us as sons and daughters of the Most High. So we are heir to all that God is and all that God has. And it's time we made that claim and lived up to that and endeavored to put it into practice, in our day-to-day life.
so I've done prayer research in the past, and for my master's degree, I took a class on psi research on parapsychology.
Cool.
And what I found out was interesting. I found out that there's been millions of dollars spent on prayer research. And what I found out was that, again, that back in like 2007, 2008, that the Templeton Foundation gave a considerable amount of money to Dr. Herbert Benson to do prayer research in the hospital. Now, what they said was this: they told all the prayers across different denominations and also different different religious beliefs. They said, what we want you to do is we want you to pray in an intention form that the individual will get better. Okay. So what happened is that the prayer results in and of themselves were skewed. And many people thought of it as a failure. What they failed to understand is that many of the people that, again, from the traditional Christian viewpoint, and also from the viewpoint of other religions, is doing it in that kind of intention form. For some people, is telling God what to do. What I found out was that prayer, through the parapsychology research, when it's in an intention form, that we get the answer to it a lot quicker. So explain why that using an intention form is a lot more powerful than begging or beseeching God.
Well, when we have an intention, the forces of the universe begin to arrange themselves and organize themselves in such a way as to fulfill that intention, as long as everyone would benefit from it, that the only outcome can be good, not ever good or someone succeeding at someone else's expense. But intentionality has organizing power, as Deepak Chopra said. And it is normal and natural then for every intention to be fulfilled, unless in some way, inadvertently, we may be sabotaging or delaying or not getting the result. Otherwise, normally it would naturally flow that every intention is fulfilled, particularly those that benefit others as well as ourselves.
Yes.
It's a wonderful thought to know that. But one thing to bear in mind with intention is something that Emmett Fox said. Once you pray, you may have a very distinct idea of what you would like to see happen. But once having prayed, you then relinquish the prayer. You let go of it in the attitude of this, Lord, or something better. You release the universe to go to work on our behalf for far better results than we can often visualize for ourselves. So pray with the intention, but always be willing to allow an even greater measure of success to come from the prayer, or an even greater blessing and fulfillment than we could have envisioned.
And if you're wondering what you've stumbled onto this evening, hi there. This is the Friday Evening Fireside Chat. Here on the New Thought Media Network, we have with us New Thought scholar Dr. April Moncrief, who's speaking from her research and her book on the principles of New Thought. So, Dr. April, what is the ultimate goal of true prayer?
The ultimate goal really is to live always in the consciousness of the presence of God. It's just that's really it. And we do a lot of things to sort of not quite get there, but in true prayer, we allow, as I said, that sense of separation, that sense of a small little separate human selfhood begins to dissolve somewhat, the parameters of that self, so that we recognize ourselves to be part of something so much more magnificent and grander. When we see ourselves as part of this great universal scheme that is God, that is the heavenly realm of thought. But we have to allow that to happen and to be willing to let go of ego and many of the things that stand in the way of fulfillment in prayer. And there are a number of them. If I could just touch on them briefly.
Oh, please do. Please do.
One is, the Bible says somewhere, many of us have had the experience of praying sincerely about something, only to have the prayer not seem to be answered.
Yes.
And there are a number of reasons for that. Sometimes the timing just isn't right for us to have that particular thing. Other times, God, as I said, has a far greater plan unfolding than what we have envisioned. Also, the Bible says a double-minded man or person is unstable in all his ways, meaning if we're praying and affirming in 1 minute and the next minute where doubt, fear, or anxiety creep in, then we're nullifying the effect of our prayers.
Yes.
So we have to have the single eye that Jesus speaks of. That's the intentionality right there. The single eye, rather than being double-minded, praying 1 minute and worrying the next minute. Another thing that often can stand in the way of fulfillment in prayer, and it's probably one of the greatest stumbling blocks to answered prayer, and that is holding on somewhere in our consciousness to a grudge or a grievance, that there is something, a person, a situation, a relationship, something that we have not been willing to let go of or forgive.
Absolutely.
And right away, that sets up, it literally causes blockages in our energy field that prevent the beautiful flow of answered prayer to reach us and to come through to us. So forgiveness is an essential aspect of expecting answers in prayers. And Charles Fillmore said that every night we should sit down for a few minutes and forgive every person, every situation, every past, anything that may have gone on in our lives, and to be willing to simply let go of it. Just one of my father's favorite things that he often said was, let go and let God.
Yes.
At a certain point, we have to relinquish whatever we're holding so tightly that is standing in the way of answered prayer in our life. And it may well be the reason why a particular prayer we have cherished for so long, finding an answer to, why it appears to not yet have been answered. So it's usually something within us, some criterion of prayer that we have not quite fulfilled in order to allow the magnificence of the fullness of blessing to come forth. So work on forgiving, all of us.
Yes. So oftentimes in counseling, what I'll say is, especially when I do premarital counseling, is if there's been hurt in a past relationship, I will say, well, you've been to therapy and you've done this and you've done that. I said, have you ever thought about just forgiving? And that's an interesting point, because again, that unforgiveness is, again, it's like us holding a hot coal in our hand.
Exactly.
And thinking that if we keep holding that hot coal, that what's going to happen is that they're going to either come to us and say, well, I did you wrong, I'm sorry. So in the ego, we want We want some type of revenge. But the whole idea, again, in spirituality is we go ahead and we let go of that.
Exactly.
And we let go of blame. I'm thinking of the story here. I don't know if you heard the story about Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman.
I may have.
Okay, well, I'll just say for our audience here, Dr. Coleman, when she was a student at Unity Village, they did not allow her to come on the grounds. They did not allow her to live on the grounds. So Catherine Ponder and other students signed a petition, and they asked that that Johnny Coleman be allowed to come onto the grounds and live. And that's what happened, is that after that petition was given to the higher-ups, that Johnny Coleman was allowed to live on the Unity grounds. Now, several years later, this is just a few years later before her passing, Johnny Coleman was invited back to Unity Village because they wanted to formally apologize for what happened.
Good.
And well, so this is interesting. I find this interesting what she said. So Dr. Coleman got up there and she was, she said, I appreciate this, but you really didn't have to do this. And the reason being is this, that once I forgive you, I forget you. And she didn't say that in a mean way, but she meant that to say that she just totally and completely clears her side of the fence, like Charles Fillmore did or does, yes. and said, listen, it's done and over with.
That's it.
It's done and over with. And so they're building a guest house with it's going to be called the Johnny Coleman Guest House.
Oh, wonderful.
But again, that I think that in this whole idea of waking up from past mistakes is that, again, when we forgive, is that as long as we're continuing to hold on. So what I recommend to individuals is I say, okay, if you may not be able to really forgive, but just get on the path of forgiveness. Just be willing to forgive. And if you're willing to forgive, what will happen is it'll come to pass here. So, hi, you're with the Friday Evening Fireside Chat here on the New Thought Media Network. We are with New Thought scholar, the Reverend Dr. April Moncrief, and we're talking about prayer. So, talk to us about prayer being not a monologue in which we give God direction, but also a two-way conversation where we listen for instruction. Talk to us about that.
Yes. Once again, it's the idea of the listening ear, the open-heartedness and open receptivity to allow that which is greater than us to take place in and through us. Too often we approach God as if it were a divine Santa Claus, where we submit our wish list, what we want, this, that, and the other. I have to have this particular person in a relationship or whatever. And right away, we're closing so many avenues of possible blessing. So again, the higher form of prayer is always to allow for the greater measure of spiritual wisdom and understanding to flow through us, yes. To know that we are our instruments, and to definitely allow and to cultivate that attitude of listening that the Old Testament prophets demonstrated and all, and not being quite as arrogant and egotistical that we know it all about everything. Humility is a wonderful component of that quality of receptivity and openness. And it really does give spirit so much more leeway to go to work on our behalf, because the universe is set up always to bless us and benefit us. It always has our back. But sometimes we get so caught up in dictating to God, to spirit, to universal mind, how we want to see things done. That we quite often, as I said, circumvent or sabotage what is actually a much greater path for us to follow. So I just think it's very important to do that.
So give us some, for those people, not only here in the United States, but also around the world, how would you begin a practice? Can you give us a few things that could kind of point us in the direction of the type of prayer that you're talking about? What are some things that even someone this evening who knows nothing about what we're talking about here, what are some of the things that they could start doing this evening?
Well, there are some optimal conditions for answered prayer, things that we can do on our part to facilitate answers to prayer, because we have established the right climate internally for prayer to be answered. And they're really quite simple, but they're also very effective. One is, when we're thinking about praying, we should always observe, create like a sacred spot that where you can pray, whether it's a place in nature, a place in your own home. The Bible says, I guess it was actually in Jesus' words, when thou prayest, enter into thy closet and pray in secret, and the Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. And what that means is simply, matters of the soul are sacrosanct. My mother used to say, keep your soul business to yourself. And
Wise mother.
Yes, it's really and truly observe that policy of going apart, establishing quietude within your mind and heart and your mood, and then you can begin to pray more effectively. And one of the other things that I try to do also, and the Bible says this, is pray without ceasing. And it doesn't mean we always have to be on our knees 24/7 in formal prayer. It simply means keep that attitude, again, as you go about your daily tasks, as you do the most mundane things. You're stuck in traffic, or somebody's late for an appointment, or whatever seems to be a blockage. Stay in that attitude that everything is working out. I'm in the flow of divine harmony, divine will. Have that attitude and maintain it 24/7, even when you're not in formalized prayer. Some of the greatest prayers are done when you're walking your dog or taking care of your cat or whatever. It's just a wonderful way to live in that attitude of prayer unceasingly. And another thing we can do after we've established quietude in prayer and the right receptivity is definitely the power of the spoken word. What's her name? Florence Scovel Shinn wrote a book of that title.
Yes.
We're told in the Bible, thou shalt decree a thing and it shall be established unto you. Our spoken prayers, prayer said aloud, is very, very powerful. Yes. Because it actually activates activity in the higher realms of consciousness to go forth to give us that answer. So it's very, very important. The vibration of prayer as it goes out through the audible word is unmistakably powerful and brings great blessings our way. And a couple of other things, they're sort of interrelated. But when Jesus said, have the faith of a little child, pray as a little child would pray. And as my father used to say, that's praying with the implicit trust that a little child has in its earthly father. And when we pray in that awareness, that faith, that attitude of trust, that's really a form of knowing. That's blessed assurance, like the old hymn said, that the prayer is already answered. And Jesus had assured us that before they call, I will answer. And while they are yet speaking, I will hear. So when we pray, a child prays in the consciousness of the answer. When a little kid asks for something for Christmas from Santa, it's in that sense that the answer is forthcoming. The gift is already established in being.
Yes.
And that's how it works. It's already resolved, answered, fulfilled on the inner planes of being, and then it comes forth from there into the manifest realm. So when we pray, we want to live in the answer. We want to pray as though that answer has already been established, and we are open and grateful to embrace it and receive it and celebrate it. So those are just some key ways that we can pray perhaps more effectively.
And a couple of things, a couple of resources that I'd like to also leave. Again, from the Unity tradition, if you call up Silent Unity, again, all you have to do is just Google Silent Unity on your Google search, and it'll take you right to the page. They keep accepting your phone calls like they have for well over 100 years.
Yes,
And also that
wonderful.
they're now doing the internet too. So, but Silent Unity also, one of the things that we do here at our network is prayer@ntmedia.org. We have, I believe, some of the best prayers in worldwide. Our team is absolutely wonderful because, again, one of the things that Dr. April says, we pray the answer. We don't pray the problem. So again, that, Ernest Holmes and Charles and Myrtle Fillmore said, you gotta turn away completely from the problem and come from a place of principle. So if you don't know how to, so if you don't know how to do that, prayer@ntmedia.org, we'll be more than happy to pray with and for you. Go ahead, Dr. April.
Oh, just going to say a couple more things. Thinking back again to Emmett Fox, who was my spiritual teacher. My parents knew him personally in New York City and attended his services in the 1930s and 40s. He said that a prayer is never answered in the consciousness in which the problem was created or generated. So it's always, you go to that higher realm in thought, because the prayers are answered from that higher plane of awareness. So we, as you said, we want to let go of the problem completely so we can enter wholeheartedly into that higher level of spiritual awareness and understanding. And two ways that are so successfully practiced in the New Thought groups. One is, of course, affirmation. They're widely used, often in conjunction with denials, because what a denial does is dismantle erroneous structures in consciousness that we have mistakenly adhered to or given our credence to. So denial, it serves a wonderful purpose for dismantling erroneous beliefs. And then when we say a decree and an affirmation, it's that much more powerful.
Yes.
And the other form that is used so widely in, particularly, I think, in religious science, Centers for Spiritual Living, of course, is spiritual treatment, which treatments are a series of affirmations based, a whole series where they make a statement or two of principle, and then you even personalize it in the way you are accepting that, you are believing that, you are claiming it, you are receiving it. So those two forms of prayer are very, very commonly used and always have been since the beginning of these movements of New Thought, probably beginning with Christian Science, maybe even too.
Yes.
But
And
those...
also Quimby too, Dr. Phineas Quimby too.
Yes, absolutely. Right. So it has a good lineage there of success in prayer. Again, no doubt, no fear, no anxiety, no second guessing, just complete allegiance to the one presence and the one power.
Dr. April Moncrief, again, boy, time flies when we have you on. Again, thank you so very much. If you would like to know more about what we talked about tonight, go get her book, Principles of New Thought, which is available on Amazon. Also some wonderful books there. Again, I consider Dr. Moncrief, again, a real scholar in this. So especially her, well, you're welcome. Especially, again, if you take a look at the Principles of New Thought, you'll see a lot of deep thought went into it. And a lot of scholarly work went into it. So again, go get that book, and explain a little bit more about what we talked about this evening. Dr. Moncrief, we're going to need to let you go, but you stay in the green room, and we'll talk afterwards as I say goodbye to everyone. Again, thank you so very much for being with us.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
Okay, so you hang in there in the green room. I'm just going to get
probably will have to go pretty soon.
Okay. All right, real good. All right. So it's time for us to go. What a great evening with Dr. Moncrief. Again, her book is available on Amazon. If you want to go ahead and pick that up. And again, for all of those of you out there, again, that's go to ntmedia.org/donate. Again, please consider becoming a partner so that we can get out this message to the whole world. It's practical spirituality. So ntmedia.org/donate. On behalf of myself and Dr. April and everyone else here at the New Thought Media Network, this is Pastor Michael Mangus, and I'm going to wish you a very pleasant good night.
Thanks for joining us this evening for Friday's Fireside Chat with Pastor Michael Mangus. Join us again next week at 8 Eastern, 6 Mountain for more spiritual conversations for today. For more information and replays of past shows, please visit the New Thought Radio and Media Network's Facebook page. Until next week, may God bless you richly and abundantly.